bit different from my day.
You've no idea.
Mike, can I borrow your phone? There's no signal on mine.
Despite this being his first time meeting Watson, Sherlock opts not to introduce himself.
Here. Use mine.
Oh, thank you.
It's an old friend of mine, John Watson.
Instead, Sherlock borrows Watson's phone.
Afghanistan or Iraq?
Sorry?
Which was it, Afghanistan or Iraq?
Afghanistan. Sorry, how did you...
Molly, coffee.
It's unclear how Sherlock knows that Watson was in the army, or that Watson's looking for a flatmate. That'll be mentioned momentarily. What is clear is that Sherlock prefers asking questions to answering them. One might conclude that Sherlock is a poor communicator, but that's only under the pretense that his opacity is unintentional. Listen to this exchange of questions.
Would that bother you? Potential flatmates should know the worst about each other.
Well, you told him about me.
Not a word.
Then who said anything about flatmates?
I did. Told Mike this morning that I must be a difficult man to find a flatmate for. And now here he is, just after lunch with an old friend, clearly just home from military service in Afghanistan. Wasn't a difficult leap.
How did you know about Afghanistan?
See, Sherlock pries Watson open with his own questions, but is far more conservative when it's his turn to respond. How many questions has Sherlock asked? And how many has he eluded? Really, Sherlock is using his deduction to disarm Watson. In a sense, Sherlock leverages his intellect to create an uneven dynamic between himself and Watson.
We don't know a thing about each other. I don't know where we're meeting. I don't even know your name.
I know you're an army doctor and you've been invalided home from Afghanistan. I know you've got a brother who's worried about you, but you won't go to him for help because you don't approve of him, possibly because he's an alcoholic, more likely because he recently walked out on his wife. And I know that your therapist thinks you're limp psychosomatic, quite correctly, I'm afraid.
This scene happens at the very beginning of the episode. It's not until the end of the episode that Sherlock reveals his hand. This tells us that he was always capable of answering Watson's questions, but chose not to.
When I met you for the first time yesterday, I said Afghanistan or Iraq. You looked surprised.
Yes, how did you know?
I didn't know, I saw. Your haircut, the way you hold yourself, says military. But your conversation as you entered the room...
A bit different from my day.
...said trained at Bart, so army doctor, obvious.
If he was capable, why is he so slow to play his cards? He waits to flaunt his intellect and waits till the very end of their first conversation to introduce himself.
The name's Sherlock Holmes and the address is 221B Baker Street.
Some things Sherlock wants known, others not so much. In truth, honest conversation is hard to come by.
We might assume that letting people know what we want and how we feel is relatively easy. We surely just open our mouths and say it. But human life shows extraordinary troubles around communicating our intentions and emotions clearly and honestly.
You said I had a therapist.
Got a psychosomatic limp, of course you've got a therapist. Then there's your brother. Your phone, it's expensive, email-enabled MP3 player. Are you looking for a flat share? You wouldn't waste money on this. It's a gift, then. Scratch is not one, many over time. It's been in the same pocket as keys and coins. Man sitting next to me wouldn't treat it as one luxury item like this, so it's had a previous owner.
Sherlock wants to be known for his intellect. He doesn't truly want to be known. Instead, he hides behind his strengths. Impressive as his deductions are, don't get distracted by the noise. The nakedness of being seen is scary, so Sherlock clothes himself in intellect. That way, when someone rejects him, it's because of what he chooses to wear, not because of who he is underneath his bravado. The lie Sherlock distracts himself with is that changing how he is perceived is as easy as changing an outfit. The secret of pride is that those who drape themselves with it are ashamed of what lies beneath.
Look at me, I'm afraid, John.
Afraid.
Sherlock.
Divorce myself from feelings. But look, you see, body's betraying me. Interesting, yes? Emotions.
Vulnerability comes with discomfort. We don't like being defenseless. Watch as Sherlock lashes out like an animal protecting a wound.
Shut up.
There is nothing wrong with me, do you understand?
Sherlock would have you believe that he is larger than life. And just like Watson, the audience obliges. As with the Greek heroes before him, we are drawn to the mythos of his character. But the creator of Sherlock calls to question our definition of heroes by humanizing Sherlock.
And it's absolutely true that Sherlock is substantially more human in the third season than he is in the first two.
Stephen Moffat, who also created Doctor Who, offers insight on who Sherlock is through comparing both shows' protagonists.
So the commonalities between the Doctor and Sherlock Holmes are there. The Doctor always strikes me as sort of like an angel who aspires to be human, whereas Sherlock Holmes is a human being who aspires to be a god.
Time and time again, Sherlock saves the day off the back of his godlike intellect. But as time wears on, he's forced to face his childhood, and by proxy, he's forced to face his own humanity.
You're on the case.
I'm on the case. We're both on the case.
Looking at this scene, Sherlock and his older brother Mycroft reflect on their childhood. Coincidentally, they happen to be playing a children's game called Operation, which one might imagine that they played in their childhood.
Look at us right now.
Oh, bugger.
Oopsie. Can't handle a broken heart. How very telling.
Now, if you weren't looking for it, you would have missed it. In the background and out of focus lies the game of chess. Foregrounding the scene is the game of Operation.
This right now.
Oh, bugger.
Oopsie.
That little touch of set design is the director giving us a thematic wink. Throughout the show, Sherlock and Mycroft's relationship can be described as a battle of wits, or a game of chess where Watson is made to be as disposable as a pawn to the two brothers.
Look at him, what is he? Nothing more than a distraction, a little scrap of ordinariness for you to impress, to dazzle with your cleverness. You'll find another.
Adulthood has raised the stakes of the brothers' relationship. Metaphorically, it would appear chess is more worthy of Sherlock's attention. But more crucial is it for Sherlock to tend to his childhood.
Can't handle a broken heart. How very telling.
Don't be smart.
That takes me back. Don't be smart, Sherlock. I'm the smart one.
I am the smart one.
I used to think I was an idiot.
Both of us thought you were an idiot, Sherlock. We had nothing else to go on.
Though Sherlock is the most intelligent person in most every room he steps into, his childhood reveals why he has a desperate need to be seen as intelligent.
From our experiences, we will then acquire expectations or internal scripts and patterns of behavior that we play out unknowingly across adulthood.
Which is why the throwaway line,
Can't handle a broken heart. How very telling.
brings to focus what's at stake when dissecting one's childhood. Were you to operate on someone's heart, you would want precise control in a steady hand. And yet, we see Sherlock tremble in the face of vulnerability, his body betraying him.
Look at me, I'm afraid, John.
Afraid. But look, you see, body's betraying me. Interesting, yes? Emotions.
Sherlock is far from ready for this introspective surgery, and just as Mycroft before him,
Right now.
Oh, bugger.
Oopsie.
Sherlock triggers a loud ping in his patient.
There is nothing wrong with me. Do you understand?
Metaphor our witness, Sherlock's
Eternal contribution has been to alert us to the many ways in which adult emotional lives sit on top of childhood experiences, and how we are made sick by not knowing our own histories.
Sherlock is as sick as the serial killers that he chases. He may not murder others, but he certainly has skeletons stowed away in his closet. He builds an ivory tower of intellect and isolates himself, and yet desperately longs to be seen. Sherlock intimately understands the plight of serial killers and their loneliness. He shares more in common with them than anyone else he interacts with.
Yes, but I'm not my brother, remember? I am you.
Prepared to do anything. Prepared to burn. Prepared to do what ordinary people won't do. You want me to shake hands with you in hell? I shall not disappoint you.
Look at how giddy he gets when he discovers a new serial killer. Sherlock believes that he chases serial killers in order to run from boredom, but I think he's actually running from loneliness. This scene is evidence that thwarting criminals is only an intellectual feat. It requires no real courage of Sherlock.
Brilliant! Yes!
4 serial suicides and now a note. It's Christmas.
Counterintuitive though it appears, the true villain in Sherlock's life is his adult self. No criminal, not even Moriarty, is as adept at denying Sherlock what he truly needs. Mycroft and Sherlock both recoil from friendship because their childhood taught them to do so.
Both of us thought you were an idiot, Sherlock. We had nothing else to go on till we met other children.
Oh, yes, that was a mistake.
Ghastly. What were they thinking of?
Probably something about trying to make friends.
Oh, yes. Friends.
I don't have friends. No.
Though this presents as strength and self-sufficiency, Really, it's just an act of weakness and self-sabotage. Therein, the act of befriending Watson is the bravest thing Sherlock sets out to do.
The point I'm trying to make is that I am the most unpleasant, rude, ignorant, and all-round obnoxious arsehole that anyone could possibly have the misfortune to meet. I am dismissive of the virtuous, unaware of the beautiful, and uncomprehending in the face of the happy. So if I didn't understand I was being asked to be best man, it is because I never expected to be anybody's best friend.
By reacquainting with his vulnerabilities, Sherlock is able to right the wrongs of his childhood. In truth, maturity is nothing more than embracing our inner child. You either reconcile with the wrongs of your past, or you let them dictate your present.
The legacy of a difficult childhood, by which one really means a typical childhood, spreads into every corner of adult life.
This is the reason immature adults act like children. An immature adult is nothing more than a wounded child. If we retrace our steps, it's easy to see where things went wrong.
In other words, for a significant stretch, we were in the odd position that we couldn't utter a word. Others had to guess what was on our minds. They listened to our crying, they witnessed our angry faces, they saw our outstretched arms, they had a shot at guessing, and they got it right. They were not geniuses at interpersonal understanding, they guessed correctly because it was easy. The things we needed back then were so uncomplicated and so limited.
Therefore, the task of adulthood is to give voice to our inner child, to learn again what it means to be hurt, to be dependent, and to be small.
Language may not wholly create feelings, but it most definitely and beautifully deepens and clarifies them. The right words help us to know ourselves. Through their agency, we can more accurately and securely identify the contents of our inner lives.
And so, the genius of Sherlock, meaning that which holds value, lies not in what he knows, but in what confounds him.